Good afternoon, judges. My name is Bahamik Mehta, and I'm number 134. Albert Einstein once said, "Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking that it is stupid." Fishes are meant to swim. They are not meant to climb trees. They can swim past obstacles and reach their goals with relatively less difficulty, but when tasked with climbing a tree, they will obviously fail. This is one of the things that our school system tries to do to our students today. My name is Bahamik Mehta, and if I could change one thing in the world, I would change our school system. First of all, our school system is outdated. Let's make a small comparison between the 1800s and now. Back then, to get from one place to another, people would drive in horse cart carriages. Those were slow and ineffective. Nowadays, people use cars that are fast and efficient. In the 1800s, people used telephones that were big and bulky and hard to use and were stationary. Nowadays, people use cell phones that rest in the back of their pockets and can be pulled out at any time for their convenience. What happens when we compare the school system, though? Back then, people were seated in rows, and when they wanted to speak, they would raise their hand. Nowadays, people still sit in rows and still raise their hand to speak. Nothing has changed, and we need a change, because the thing is, our school system was created during the Industrial Revolution, when factory workers were needed at mass. And at that time, our school system performed really well. It was able to teach students how to follow directions and how to work on menial tasks effectively. Now that has changed. We have automated machines that do those for us, and at this time, we need creativity, innovation, and critical thinking skills. But our schools don't give us that. They give us the exact opposite. Secondly, our school systems treat everybody like they're the same. All the students are piled into one classroom with one teacher and taught the same thing. However, students are different. They have different brains, different personalities. They aspire to be different people. How can we treat all of these different people like the same person and teach them the same exact thing? It's just not fair to them. Let's look at how Finland addresses this problem. They take way less standardized tests because standardized tests do not focus on one individual and instead test everybody on one subject. Finland also has shorter school times and less homework. This allows students more time to work on things that they have interest in. How does Finland do? Well, they rank second in the world in terms of math and third in the world in terms of language arts. They're obviously doing it right. Maybe we could adopt their school system and also build on top of that. Finally, our school systems do not pay our teachers as much as they deserve to be paid. That is huge. That is very big. Teachers are the people with the most power in this world because they educate our students, and our students are the future. But if we don't pay them enough for important jobs like this, then it's going to be destructive. Teachers will be focusing on how to get their debts paid off and how to get basic needs, rather than focusing on how they can educate their students better. Teachers that could have great potential don't even come into the industry because they know that it's a low-paying job. That means that students that could have received a great education and done something great in our world now no longer can do that. All in all, our school system's not doing it right. Not only does it not individualize students' education, it also takes away creativity, innovation, and creative thinking skills from them. And to add on to that, it underpays the teachers. Students make up 20% of our world, but they make up 100% of our future. If we don't educate our students properly, then they won't be able to solve huge problems in the future, like world hunger and poverty. So take a stand with me and help me change our school system. Thank you.
I don't know, that speech hits home. Eye level. Talking about individualized. That's what we're all about. Our program is all about catering to what each student needs. Okay, it's not a cookie cutter concept. It's not repetition. We're all about making sure each child is eye level with there and we're eye level with them. All right, great. So next speech is we're going this way. All right, she moved. So you're up. Oh, okay. Did you want to go? It's up to you. We're all gonna get.
Yeah, go. It's fine.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Everyone's gonna get their turn. Okay. Thank you so much. You don't need the platform. All right.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So less energy in the room. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
That was much better. Okay, so let me begin by asking you all a simple question. By a show of hands, how many of you in this room believe that the trees around us, outside, have reduced? No one? So a few hands there, a few hands here in the back, and a few hands there. Well, most of you in this room believe that trees around us have reduced. And you're right. The trees around us outside have reduced significantly. And this is due to deforestation. Deforestation, something we hear about nearly every year in the news. So what is it? Well, deforestation is the permanent destruction of forests and trees around us in order to make the land available for commercial uses. Deforestation has been harming us, not only us, but our environment, our ecosystem, and other living species. So, if I had the chance to change something in this whole wide world, I would reduce deforestation. According to a study done by environmental scientist Joshua 8, we lose about 34% of Earth's forests worldwide each year, and about 27% of this loss is permanent. Just imagine how many trees we lose each year. The amount is unbelievable. Now, deforestation also kills the lungs of Earth. Yes, you heard me right, the lungs of Earth. Trees are the lungs of Earth, since they provide its people with oxygen, which is an essential element of our lives. Without trees, without oxygen, we absolutely cannot survive. Now, not only does deforestation kill the lungs of Earth, but it also destroys the lives of many animal species that live in the forests. Birds, frogs, orangutans, monkeys, you name it. We lose about 1 million animal species each year due to deforestation. In addition, deforestation also influences global warming and climate change, leading to a very unstable ecosystem. If deforestation continues at this rate, the trees we see outside, the forests we have right now, may completely vanish in as little as 100 years. And to preclude this, we must start taking corrective steps right now. It's as simple as planting a tree outside your yard, which is why today I've brought with me this plant for this college. Because I believe we all have a responsibility towards keeping our environment clean. Just take a look at this plant and think how many trees we plant against how many trees we cut. It's about 2 times the amount of trees we plant the trees we cut. And to preclude this, to reduce deforestation, for every tree we cut, we must plant 2. After all, the change begins where we are. And I'm looking forward to all of you planting trees, spreading awareness of this. Thank you.
My name is Karthik and I'm number 108. Imagine a child working in the fields every single day. He doesn't have anything to do but forced to work in the fields. He's not learning at school or is not playing with his friends, but forced to work. What is this? Child labor. This could hurt a child's day-to-day life. Imagine him in the future. He wouldn't have a job, he wouldn't be employed, but he couldn't be labored because his whole childhood was destroyed. What is he going to do? Nothing. And if I wanted to change one thing in the world, it's to banish child labor. It could harm so many kids' lives. And plus, it's illegal. The UN says this is an illegal act according to international law. So any countries who try to do this are completely destroying the laws. And they should be punished for doing this. 3 examples of countries who are ruining children's lives are the Democratic Republic of Congo, Bolivia, and Eritrea. First of all, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, cobalt is mined. Children are used to mine cobalt, and mining cobalt is a very toxic process. It could hurt the child mentally and physically. This could harm the child in many ways. In the future, they might not be able to do much because of their disabilities or lack of ability. In the future, what would happen to them? And also, they're being forced into work. It isn't like they want to do this. They have to. People have tortured them and enslaved them into doing this. Secondly, Bolivia. Bolivia's legal working age is 10 years old. That means you could see a 10-year-old selling stuff on the streets. And the saddest part about this is the child is the main income for the family. That means the family would not be there without the child. What if something happens to the child? Should they depend on him? No. But that's how it is right now. And last but not least, Eritrea. Eritrea is ranked one of the highest places for child labor, mainly because the law enforces it. All children ages 11 to 15 have to work on the streets every summer. They have to repair roads and do agriculture. This is ruining their summer. Imagine how bad your summer would be if you had to do that. And also, the worst part is, Eritrea makes these kids, they torture them into doing this. They enslave them and bring them from places and rural areas. And they're not allowed to go to school because they're forced to do this. In conclusion, you can see how all of these children's lives are being destroyed by these simple tasks that the government does. What if we all come together and enforce banishing child labor? How would these children benefit? Do you want to do this?
My name is Ashraf Katragara. I'm number 121. Imagine you woke up one day only to see devastation all around you. There's black smog in the atmosphere and people coughing their lungs out. You're in complete shock and you wonder what's happening to the world. You step outside and feel a gust of fuming wind. It's almost like the world is on fire. Many of us are present here today, so we should all recognize the threat of climate change and global warming, since it is urgent and growing and could seriously affect our biosphere. It is completely fundamental and essential for us and our future generation to be aware of this irreversible catastrophe. If I could change one thing in this world, I would end global warming and climate change. Good evening, one and all. My name is Ashraf Katragada, and in the next 3 minutes, I will be talking to you about the effect of global warming and how we can prevent it as a global community. To begin with, how do we know that climate change is happening? Well, Earth's average temperature has risen by 1.6 degrees Fahrenheit over the past 100 years, and is projected to increase up to another 8.6 degrees Fahrenheit over the next century. This shows how drastically temperatures are rising compared to before the 1900s. There is also a lot of evidence to prove this point. There have been way more floods and droughts, the oceans are warming and becoming more acidic, sea levels are rising, there are more severe heat waves and reducing ice and snow cover, releasing methane into the atmosphere. Methane is a greenhouse gas which traps heat into the atmosphere, warming up the Earth. Climate change gradually started happening in the 1700s, which is also known as the Industrial Revolution. Moving on, let's talk about what we are doing to cause global warming. Burning fossil fuels, using CFCs or chlorofluorocarbons, cars, and landfills are all causes for ozone depletion. The ozone layer protects us from ultraviolet light from the sun. So ozone depletion is a big problem because without the ozone, we would be experiencing hotter climates on Earth since we are more exposed to the sun. There are also many consequences of global warming. Human health would be impacted because of decreased air quality. Agriculture would be impacted because wetter springs would delay planting and harvesting. There would be more severe heat stress on animals. Ecosystems would be impacted because tree species would move to their desired locations in the north. Birds would migrate quicker and plants would also blossom quicker. Now let's talk about what we can do to prevent global warming. Well, we could start out by reducing the amount of time we spend on vehicles that let out gas, since the chemical emission from cars is seriously depleting the ozone. We also need to make sure that we plant more trees, since that would release more oxygen into the air, decreasing the amount of carbon dioxide. We also need to make sure that we do not waste water or burn plastics, which leads to landfills. Now, you may ask, how will we bring about this change? Well, we could start out with the schools. We need to make sure that we educate teachers, parents, and students about the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. Reducing is cutting back on the amount of trash we make. Reusing is finding a new way to make trash so it doesn't have to be thrown out. Recycling is finding a new way to remake goods that can be sold again. Some things that can be reused and recycled are aluminum cans, plastic bags, cardboard boxes, etc. There are many more. You could also recycle glass jars. Climate change is seen as a serious threat worldwide and is receiving serious attention. I hope this global warming speech has informed you about global warming, its effect on us, and how we can prevent it as a global community. It is now up to you to decide what to do about it. I'll leave you with the thought. Once again, my name is Ashwin Katragada, and thank you for listening to my speech.
My name is Vishrit Bachu, and I'm number 129. Can I start? Yes. Locked behind their green classroom door, Mackenzie Woody and 25 other first grade students huddled in the darkness. She sat on the vinyl tile floor, underneath a taped up list of phrases that the students were encouraged to say to each other, such as, "I like you," "You're a rainbow," "Are you okay?" This was the scene at DC Prep Elementary School, where a 21-year-old opened fire on and killed 3 students and injured another 20 as well. Believe it or not, this is not a unique situation. It has happened before and will continue to happen unless we change something about it. I'm Vishrit Bachu, and if there is one thing I could change about our world, it would be to ban guns in the hands of civilians. In 2009, 310 million firearms were sold. With a population of 307 million, this means there are more guns than the number of people in the entire United States. Buying a gun is pretty easy. All you have to do is go to a store, like Dick's Sporting Goods, show an ID, and you get the gun. The Second Amendment clearly gives the rights for civilians to have guns. But the Second Amendment was created a long time ago, and in earlier times, things were much more different as they are today. In earlier times, people did not take advantage of guns, and they only used guns to protect themselves from animal dangers and trespassing. Now, people are using guns to kill innocent people. For example, the Parkland shooting. The Parkland shooting was caused by a 17-year-old. The 17-year-old killed 17 students and injured another 17 students as well. What did the poor students ever do to him? And first off, how did he manage to get the gun? 17-year-olds are not allowed to have the gun. Maybe his parents were the rightful owners of the guns, and they used the guns responsibly, but he may have stole it from their parents and used it to kill innocent people. That's why we should ban guns. Even the rightful owners of the guns, even if they use it in the right way, people may steal the guns from them, and they may do something bad with it. If you ask me to imagine what a world without guns would be, it wouldn't be that difficult. As a kid, I can see several benefits. Number 1, this will make schools and colleges safe for all. 3 times between November and December, Mackenzie Woody's public charter elementary school, there was near burst of fire, and this led DC Prep to sequester its Southeast Washington campus. How can students learn due to this random gun violence? Schools and colleges are supposed to be a place where students should be able to grow stronger and learn together, but how can this happen due to this random gun violence? Number 2, this will make the crime rate reduce. Let's take Venezuela as an example. The crime rate in Venezuela is 83%, and about 72% of this is due to open gunfire. Think about it, if we ban guns, the crime rate in Venezuela will only be 11%, which is not that high for an entire country. We need to create good reputations for our countries, cities, towns, etc. But we need to ban guns. This is the only way we can do it. Imagine that you were really good at your job and you got a promotion, and your promotion transferred you to Detroit, Michigan. Detroit, Michigan is known for having a very high crime rate, and you had a family behind you and you wanted to keep your family safe. This is why you declined the job offer. You could have provided so much more for your family than you had, but now because of the crime rate, you couldn't do that. Number 3, this will promote people living in harmony. Guns lead to violence, and violence leads to deaths. Deaths lead to many people losing their loved ones. Again, the Parkland shooting. 17 innocent high school students died. Think about their family members and people who cared about them and loved them. How would you feel if you were able to put yourself in their shoes? You would probably not feel happy. People only have one opportunity to live a life, and they should live it happy and safe. Because of guns, people can't do so. If you want the world to become a better place, then you should be with me on this one, and you should ban guns. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nish and I am number 111. If I could change one thing in the world, it would be to reduce the amount of pollution in this world. Pollution. We all have heard about this in many forms like water, air, soil, thermal, radioactive, light, and sound pollution. But the 3 major types of pollution are soil, water, and air pollution. This is important because our planet Earth could be extinct and we humans will be the cause of this since we started pollution but we didn't end pollution. First, I'll be talking about air pollution. Air pollution is the stuff we put in the atmosphere from car exhaust to industrial waste, and this causes air pollution. Air pollution can cause other diseases like lung cancer. To even people who do not smoke at all get impacted by this since they breathe that polluted air. We humans have contributed toward this situation through smoke coming out of factories, power plants, chemical fuels, and by burning fossil fuels. Next is that we're polluting water. Do you guys know that in the Pacific Ocean there's a place on the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and it's twice the size of Texas and stretches hundreds of miles across the Pacific Ocean? That's where 70% of the water is sinking. 70% of the garbage is sinking, which is killing the marine animals. Just like garbage, there's littering, and it also has a negative impact on animals, since it lures animals out of natural habitats onto the roads or highways, which gives them a higher chance of being killed. Each year, we litter about 9 billion. Thirdly is that resources aren't infinite. You guys might be thinking now that how it's related to the topic. Well, it's related to the topic since most humans in the world are using water like it's infinite. But water does have a limit since only 3% of the water in this world is drinkable and the other 97% is salt water. And then while we're polluting water, the amount of water that's available for us to drink decreases. And soon there'll be no water that's safe to us to drink. And the same happens with food and air. Lastly is that are the ways that we can stop pollution. So the ways that you can stop pollution are by using less water, using sustainable vehicle choices, buying a hybrid or electric car as your next vehicle choice, and buying reusable items. In conclusion, that if I could change one thing in the world, that would be to reduce the amount of pollution in this world. I am telling you guys this because of humans being impacted, animals are harmed, and resources aren't infinite. Our planet Earth gave life to us with one full of resources, and it's about to be extinct. So I request you all to be mindful. Let's make Earth a cleaner and greener planet. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anushka Avilash and my number is 131. I am an 8th grader from the Monroe Center. There are many options to choose from if you were able to change the world, including pollution, equality, disease, poverty, climate change, human rights, and so many more. One problem that I believe is overlooked, but is at the core of most of these issues, is human greed. I have seen this in action multiple times myself, whether it be people trying to get every single item when there are sales for Black Friday, even if the item is completely useless, or when people throw out their trash into nature, as if nature should pick up after them. If I had the choice to change anything in the world, it would be to lessen and maybe even completely cut human greed. Our greed is everywhere in society. But first, what is greed? If you search it up, something along the lines of excessive or selfish desire for something that is not needed, usually wealth, power, or food, would come up. The life we are living now is caused by greed and the never-ending need for more, whether it be more clothes, more food, more money. We always want more. But why should we change? Everything is great, isn't it? For us, who live in nice homes, a good town, with enough food, and with money to buy anything that we want, but not for everybody. There are people out there without food, water, shelter, without basic necessities, while we have tons of items that they might not even dream of. Sometimes we can be inconsiderate to other people's needs and only care for our own. For example, if you already had a functioning phone, but went to buy the latest one just for the sake of having it, it's an example of greed, since you already have one, why do you need another? Sadly, this happens way too many times nowadays. In other places, that sum of money used to buy the phone could provide multiple families with basic needs to survive. Not only does our greed make us want more, it blinds us from other problems as well. Many of Earth's biggest issues exist because of our greed. Global warming, for example. We were greedy and wanted more goods, so we built factories. Those factories run on cheap and effective coal, which is a cause of pollution. That pollution then created global warming, and it ended up being caused by us humans. We were blinded by our own greed and only looked for the cheapest solution to get us what we needed, without looking to see what consequences would occur because of that choice. Another example, war. In our history, people have fought war fueled by greed. Whether their incentives were to secure more land, resources, slaves, wealth, or something else, it was always caused by our greed to want and take more. We never seem to be satisfied with what we have, always looking forward to what's next and what else you can get. If humans don't change, any of our efforts won't be able to rein in other pressing issues like climate change, pollution, and poverty. As bad as all that is, how could we change it? I don't think our greed would ever go away, but we could reduce it as much as possible. By minimizing our greed and becoming more aware and taking action for other problems around us, we might have a chance at stopping other major issues like pollution and maybe even global warming. We could donate clothes, money, and food to charities. We could help people from countries like Venezuela and Congo who don't receive basic needs. By being more caring to the people around us that are suffering, it would make the earth a better place for everybody, even the less fortunate. I believe change is possible on both a small and large scale, and if we act together to not be controlled by our greed, it would make a stronger world. Instead of having progress like time travel or people living on Mars, we should focus on supplying all of the world's people their basic needs so they can experience the progress as well. Now some of you may be thinking, why does this even matter? Well, if we don't change, our greed could not only lead to the downfall of us, but several others as well. Stephen Hawking said in multiple interviews that human greed and stupidity are what will end the human race. We have filled the planet with our own smoke from factories and greenhouse gases, which leads us and all the other species in the world to be facing the consequences. For example, as most of you know, the polar bear population is dwindling because their ice caps are melting, leaving them without a reliable source of food or land. Global warming, which is making the ice caps melt, was partly caused and sped up by humans. So not only are we bringing ourselves down because of our greed, we are bringing other species and animals down along with us. If we were able to change, it would revive our planet back to a better state and help the lives of so many people. Without our greed, we could help make a difference to people whose lives haven't been so lucky. It could help solve poverty and climate change, so how could it be a bad thing? Overall, lessening human greed would help us as a whole. Human greed is an issue that needs to be fixed because if we don't, the future of our planet and us will not be well. It causes so many problems that by getting rid of greed, which is the source, other problems like poverty and pollution will eventually get better as well. If I had the choice to change anything in the world, it would be to get rid of human greed to make a better world for everybody. Thank you.
Hello everybody. My name is Vishwatadam, number 119. In today's world, there are several problems, political, economic, and others. But one of today's biggest problems is poverty. If I could change one thing in the world, that would be poverty, and I'm here to talk about it and some solutions to solve it. Have you ever seen a homeless person? Well, I have. When I visited India, I saw several people on the streets asking for money, and I felt bad for them. This condition is not fair, and there should be some way to change it. However, it is not just India. All around the world, there are millions of people currently living under the poverty line. In my speech, you will learn why we should change poverty, some solutions I thought of and brainstormed for this problem, and the effect eliminating poverty can have on the world. Initially, why should we change poverty? There are many reasons to why we should change poverty, but I feel that everyone in the world should have access to basic needs to live. It will also improve the quality of our economy altogether. If you have seen a poor person, you might have felt bad for them. They are still people. After all, they are the same as us. This does not mean we should treat people afflicted by poverty differently. It means that we should help them. Take Fortnite, for example. Let's say that your friend is about to be eliminated and needs to be revived. Would you fight the enemy and revive your friend, or would you leave your friend alone and run away? Of course, you would save your friend, and the same logic would go for poverty. Continuing on, let's discuss some solutions to this problem. Well, first, I'm going to ask you all for a solution to poverty first. So do you guys have any ideas?
Donate for charities.
That's one idea. Anybody else? Well, that's okay. That was a thoughtful idea. There are several ways to solve it. I was able to brainstorm an idea, but I also found this idea in my research that is really interesting. It is called UBI. It stands for Universal Basic Income, or MBI, Minimum Basic Income. I will talk about this first. There is lots of debate on this idea, but briefly, a UBI is a government-controlled organization that gives people free money that they could use for whatever they want. Therefore, people will be over the poverty line in terms of wealth. To be over the poverty line, a person needs at least $1,000 per month, or $12,000 per year. Studies have shown that when poor people are given the privilege of UBI and get $1,000 for 1 month, they tend to spend it on good things, such as college tuition, finding a job, and basic needs. In turn, they are helping our economy grow. In fact, people who are richer than others tend to spend more money on bad stuff, such as drugs, than poorer people. However, the idea of how much UBI should give to the poor is very diverse between people, and is debatable. Some people think UBI should be a nice alternative to existing poverty elimination programs, such as welfare, while others think it should be used to eliminate other programs that are already in place. And even more people think UBI should be so high that even work becomes optional. Currently, a UBI in our society may not be such a good idea, but later in the future, it might be crucial to our continuing success. Well, that was one solution I was able to research, but I also have another solution to share that I thought of. Maybe we can use taxes to our advantage, but how would we do this? Since we already had the concept of taxation in place, this will not be too hard to get up and running. First, we have every citizen fill out a form that asks how much money the person possesses. We will then have a base tax that can be increased or reduced, depending on the money you have. So richer people will pay more taxes, and poorer people will pay less taxes. The extra taxes will then be used to give to people under the poverty line, therefore creating balance in terms of money and giving everyone happy lives. Yay! But there could also be a downside to this yay! If people are not truthful about their income, and I still have to find a solution for that. Finally, what effect would this change have on the world? A world without poverty would be almost perfect. Firstly, everyone will have food to eat. There could be more demand for resources, and those who get out of poverty could start a new business or even invent something, contributing to the society. Imagine a place without people on the streets asking for your money. That's what the world would be like without poverty. Everyone with enough money to live a happy life. Would you guys like that? Ultimately, I hope my speech will influence you to fight against poverty. I told you why we should change poverty, the effect changing poverty could have on the world, and some solutions to poverty. Thank you for listening and have a good day.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dheeraj Nali, and I have a question. What would you do if you could change one thing in the world? I certainly know what I would do. I would change the world so that we can all live longer. Living longer can also help us research a lot of issues, which is proven by a lot of scientists. For example, we can also try and find a way to travel to another universe. The purpose of this speech is to help people understand the issues that humanity can solve and the ideas humanity can imagine. I will explain the types of milestones that humanity can achieve. First, I will have to start by explaining the scientific benefits of living longer. We can also learn about this sea creature called the Hydra. I'm not talking about the Greek monster. I'm talking about a real-life animal. Its enzymes make it immortal. We can learn more about those enzymes and make sure that a human can live unusually more. Interesting. Well, hang on. There are more interesting things I will talk about. There's also a second question. If you could live a lot longer, then what would you choose to be? Quoting Bruce Lee, the key to immortality is first living a life worth remembering. Is it really worth it to try and exceed the normal lifespan of a human just to achieve infinite boredom? This may be possible in some ways, but not possible in others. Anyway, let's get away from all that confusing stuff and let's just ponder for a minute. Is it really doable? Aren't we on a wild chase just to reach something that never gets near? Sometimes we can just ask ourselves, can I do this? Not only is it a question that can bring up a million answers on Google, but it's also a question that lets our imaginations run free. Think of new ideas and make discoveries. To quote Paul Brandt, "Don't tell me the sky's the limit when there are footprints on the moon." The importance of these everyday objects are also part of the cause. People are asking themselves, can I do this? Pushing themselves to their limits and breaking boundaries. This is what caused all of these new technologies. A few decades ago, nobody even knew we would have phones, computers, and other technological advances. What I'm trying to say here is that the world is always changing. New things are happening and there will be more things to do. But everything has to end at some point, right? As perplexing as it may be, there may not be a chance at anything. We could just be in a complex computer simulation. One thing we also have to worry about is in the process of infinite boredom is how long you can stay healthy. Now I want everybody's attention when I address a serious problem. This is a huge problem around the world and will require all the money there is to live approximately 1,000 years as a healthy angel, of course not considering all the other obstacles in the way. Just to explain the hardships, I will tell you how much the world suffers against bad health. In many countries, there are stores like McDonald's that make you food in a snap. But how do you think they make it so fast? They keep the food in a freezer for weeks or months even. And then they heat it for a short period of time. To organically cook this, they would take 1 hour at least. McDonald's was booming in industry for about 3 years. But after that, when scientists revealed the truth about McDonald's, its industry started lowering and lowering. The hygiene in places like Africa and Asia are also examples to what a bad threat this all is. Did you know that the possibility of a 40-year-old to become 105 years old is 1%? It would require a lot of medicine to treat all the places in the world. This all depends on how much resources the world has. Because if there's no materials to get medicine to you, no matter the cost, you won't even have a hope to live as long as you want. This can be hard in many places. Take the country of Chad, for example. The life expectancy there is 49.81 years. The reason for this is because 63% of all Chadians live in poverty. They also have low access to education, so only 32% of Chad's population knows how to read and write. Natural disasters also strike Chad regularly. If we could just ration supplies to suffering countries for once every 3 months, we could change and we could exponentially improve much of people's lives. We can supply these rations for enough time that the country needs so that it can build a better society for itself. In this way, the world doesn't lose supplies and the country thrives. Another way to do this is to form with another country and unite to make both countries better. Second, there are a lot of humans on our planet. We use a lot of medicine to treat everything. You're going to have to hope that some intelligent life possibly halves away all of the life on the planet, or you're going to have to hope that there's some huge civil war that breaks out and you're not part of it. Suppose all of these problems were solved on your angel planet. Suppose you find a way to find a way to live for 1,000 years or maybe more. Your metabolism will slowly decrease, which means that no matter how much you live, you will still start becoming a crippled human. Many other problems exist against your longer existence, but what are you going to do? You're just going to have to survive as long as you can. To quote H. Jackson Brown Jr., the best preparation for tomorrow is doing it today. Don't stop exploring and know there is no limit. There are many ways to spread awareness of this problem. Social media is your best bet. For those that watch among YouTube, know this problem and help improve our life expectancy. Thank you for using your time to listen to my speech. It's time to be the change.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sauraswati Reddy, and I am in 6th grade at the Monroe Township Middle School. If I could change one thing in the world, I would stop air pollution. Air pollution is a major cause of Earth's destruction. Air pollution affects the air that we breathe and increases temperature around the world. It is a common problem in many communities and it deeply affects society. There are many causes for air pollution. Air pollution is caused by any moving object that requires burning of fossil fuel, such as cars, planes, boats, and jets. Also, any establishment that sends out smoke, like factories, is also a cause of air pollution. Fossil fuels like coal release sulfur dioxide, which is a poisonous gas that causes air pollution. Cars also burn a fossil fuel called petroleum, which releases the same gas. But how does air pollution affect the world? Air pollution is made up of greenhouse gases. These gases are carbon dioxide, methane, and as mentioned earlier, sulfur dioxide. Both carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide are released from the combustion or burning of fossil fuels. Methane is released from pigs and cows. These greenhouse gases break through the ozone layer, which is a protective barrier around the Earth, which separates oxygen and carbon dioxide. But did you know air pollution also affects humans? Short-term effects of air pollution are asthma, a respiratory condition which causes difficulty in breathing. Long-term effects include heart disease, lung cancer, and damage to the brain, nerves, liver, and kidney. Studies show if a human is exposed to 6 or 7 hours of air pollution, their health levels will drop down and they could develop many diseases. Air pollution also affects the environment. It increases the temperature around the world. Increasing temperature around the world is called global warming. Global warming is caused by greenhouse gases that absorb heat and trap it, and the heat later spreads throughout the world. Ice caps are melting because of global warming, creating excess water. This excess water is later filed into the ocean, which makes the ocean levels rise. Studies show by 2050, ocean levels will rise between 1 to 9 feet. But we could stop this from happening. There are numerous ways we could stop air pollution. The first way, we could save energy by turning off lights and unplugging electronics that aren't in use. This is called reducing. The second way, we could use one piece of paper or one object for multiple times and for multiple uses. This is called reusing. Finally, we could recycle. Recycling saves energy needed to gather new materials and produce these materials. If we follow the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle, the earth will be a much greener place. Now that you know about air pollution and all of its effects, I hope you try and stop it. Air pollution is dangerous and it affects humans, animals, and our home, the earth. You could join organizations and clubs against air pollution. You could spread the news to your friends by talking to them, or you could post it on social media apps such as Instagram and Facebook. I hope you have learned something from me today. Thank you for your time. Have a nice day.
I am Vamsi, number 133. Have you ever considered why there are so many people not living longer? Well, the answer to this predicament is disease. If I could change one thing in this world, I would get rid of disease, as it is the main killer of all. If it was uprooted, then every being on earth could hopefully live a little longer. There are many contributing factors that lead to disease. Many people say we should stop pollution and terminate poverty. In reality, it's not these things that are killing all the impoverished people and the citizens exposed to pollution. If it weren't for diseases, people could contract from these conditions, there won't be all this promotion for them. Many say poverty is the most important thing we should be focused on. But in this age, that's going to be impossible. There will be someone who's going to be more successful and financially better than you. The only way to achieve this would be to become a communist society, which is a very bad idea, and the economy would collapse. So if you can't focus on that aspect of the problem, then it's time we focus on the diseases that come as a result of these disastrous plights. Many areas in the world, like Africa and India, have very poor healthcare systems and are riddled with infected animals. An estimated 75% of the new diseases humans experience result from microbes that animals transmit. To stop disease spreading and preventing pandemics, organizations like USAID partner with many other organizations to guide health, agricultural, education, and economic policy. What we could do is find out how we could fill in the gaps in these healthcare systems. We could install trained health personnel in certain hotspots in each of these countries. Many families go into malnutrition, which makes them prone to disease, as their immune systems are very weak. Also, we could run food drives to donate to the places where food is scarce or places where there's a population that can't afford food. We can also scan children for common illnesses in the local area. For example, in Africa, malaria, diarrhea, and respiratory infections are common. Then we can perform the right treatment to prevent more illnesses. We can equip families with the knowledge to provide basic treatment and referral to a clinic. The most important hurdle we need to cross to end disease is the fact that we don't know all the diseases out there. For example, in the case of coronary heart disease, no one can identify what the cause was. For over 50 years, everyone was clueless, And then we learned it was because of high cholesterol, cigarette smoking, physical inactivity, high blood pressure, obesity, diabetes, and so on. Another problem for the Disease Control Department is that most people don't change their behavior, even if it negatively affects their health. Cigarette smoking and vaping offer a clear example of this phenomenon. Preventing disease through routine vaccination can improve both health and in cases of impoverishment. UNICEF reports that increased investments on immunization in low and middle countries could avert up to 36 million deaths and 24 million cases of impoverishment due to medical costs. Furthermore, there are many people who have the aspiration to take medicine, but they take it for the money instead of the people they can cure. But as William Osler, a Canadian scientist, once said, the desire to take medicine is perhaps the greatest feature which distinguishes man from animals. So it's our job to root out those deceivers who are afterworld and look for people who care. In the final analysis, we can't let these problems repress us. To spread awareness, we can use social media and other forms of media like newspapers, the radio, and TV. If we can stop disease, then there won't be a single health-related issue among us besides natural death. It's time we cared for the people on Earth.
You know, the company started back in Korea. I don't know if you guys read the history, but this started in Korea back in 1976 or before that. A gentleman came up with the whole program when Korea was going through all the struggles as a company, war, and all that. And his idea was the only way we're going to get back to where we were is through education and educating everybody in the country. So he came up with the program, and he came up with the service. It started as a home service. He went door to door and brought his books and educated children. And that's how it came about. And then from there, it became a franchise. Now we have over or close to 2 million students around the world enrolled in I-level program. We're pretty much in India, Asia, now in US. We have 210 centers in the US, including Canada, and we're still growing. In New Jersey, we have about 25, 26 centers. Pennsylvania, we have 2. So, we're still growing, and I understand there's a lot of choices out there. But I always say this to parents, and parents are always asking, why I-level? What's the difference between you and the light blue company, right? Well, I think a lot of our students, or maybe not this group, but there was one speech here that really hit home to the answer, is that individualized learning. And I-level, we specialize in that. It's called I-level because we look at each child's I-level and cater, their progress planning, their lesson planning per child to what they need. It's not a cookie cutter. It's not all about repetition. It's all about looking at each child and giving them what they need to be creative, to be best in learning, and also to succeed in learning. And, Cranford, Shivani, and Shanu, and Rama also have been really, supportive of that and successful in delivering that program. So, without you though, this would not work. But thank you. So, judges, any word? No pressure, but
everyone did very well. Amazing topics. Great job. It's really impressive. And the good thing is that we both came up with the same kid. So I think
we didn't have to fight over it.
we didn't have to question each other about who is the winner. Do you have to say anything? Well, I really want to thank all the kids first. Really amazing topics. All right, so the third place goes to number 121. It's Ashrit. Great climate change topic. I mean, there were a lot of different climate change topics we heard today, and there were a lot of good examples and very well done.
Right, great job.
All right, so number 2 goes to our plant lady here. Very good job, Reva. 128.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
The number 1 is number 129, and it's Vishruth. This was a very unique topic. I didn't hear. I was here since at least 4 o'clock, and this was the only topic, and it's the current situation, right? So, very well done. You know, you really did very good job.
Okay, all set. Again, that concludes everything. Thank you everybody for coming out. Really, thank you for all your support, and wish to see you guys again next time.